The vehicle you are looking at is the high-mobility multi-purpose wheeled vehicle known as the Humvee. This vehicle is a 1 1/4 ton 4x4 tactical truck designed for use on all roads as well as cross-country terrain. This program will demonstrate the capability of this truck to operate over the road and cross-country, to include the operation of the winch. You will also be shown the daily preventive maintenance that is conducted before, during, and after the operation of this truck. Before we begin, there are some notes on preventive maintenance checks and services known as PMCS that need to be addressed. Before operation, PMCS must be performed prior to placing the vehicle or its components in operation. During operation, PMCS must be performed while the vehicle, its components, or its systems are in operation. After operation, PMCS are performed upon completion of the mission. Weekly and monthly PMCS will not be discussed in this program, but are listed in your operator's manual. Always use the operator's manual to do your preventive maintenance so that you don't miss any checks. If anything looks wrong and you can't fix it, write it on your DA Form 2404 and report it to your organizational maintenance. When you do your preventive maintenance, take along your operator's manual, the equipment records folder, and the basic issue items referred to as BII. You'll also need a rag for wiping and to check lubricant levels. Starting with the exterior, walk around the vehicle and visually check for damage or evidence of tampering. Look under the vehicle for leaks such as fuel, oil, coolant, or brake fluid. Visually check the tires for underinflation, leaks, cuts, or other damage that would not allow vehicle use. Look at the mirrors to ensure they are serviceable. Lift the hood and ensure the hood prop rod is securely positioned in the hood support bracket. Pull out the oil dipstick and check the oil level. The dipstick should indicate a reading between the full and add 1 quart marks. If necessary, add the required amount of oil. Another under-the-hood check to make is of the cooling system. When the system is cool, check to see that the coolant level is at the cold fill line. If not, add the necessary amount of coolant. This completes the under-the-hood checks. Now carefully lower the hood and secure the latches. Now check the operation of all lights to include headlights, tail lights, turn signals, brake lights, and blackout lights. With the light switch in the stop light position, depress the horn button to ensure the horn is operating. Check to make sure your vehicle has a fire extinguisher, it is charged, and the seal is not broken. The remaining checks will be made from the driver's seat. First, ensure the parking brake is applied, then sit in the driver's seat and adjust it as needed. Also adjust the left and right rear view mirrors so that both mirrors provide a clear view. Then check that the transmission shift lever is in the N position and the transfer case shift lever is in the H position. Lastly, fasten and adjust your seatbelt. To start the vehicle, turn the rotary ignition switch to run and wait until the wait to start lamp, located directly above the switch, goes out. Turn the switch to the start position to engage the starter to crank the engine. After the engine starts, release the switch lever and it will automatically return to the run position. As the engine warms up, check the engine oil pressure, coolant temperature, voltmeter, and fuel gauges for proper readings. Then turn on the windshield wiper control and ensure the wipers operate. Check that the brake warning lamp goes out when the parking brake is released and reapply the parking brake. Shift the transmission and transfer shift levers through all the gear ranges to ensure shift levers operate smoothly. Next, check the brakes to ensure they operate properly. With the parking brake applied, move the transmission range selector to the D position. The vehicle should not move. This is important because this vehicle does not have a park position on the automatic transmission. Then release the parking brake and allow the vehicle to move forward. As the vehicle moves, slowly depress the brake pedal. The pedal should travel about 1 to 1 1/2 inches before the brakes take hold. This is normal. Now reapply the parking brake. That will complete the before operation PMCS. You are now ready to operate your vehicle. Ensure the transmission shift lever is in the N position and the transfer case lever is in the H position. The H position is used when operating on all roads and off-road surfaces where little or no wheel slippage exists. This range is also to be used when encountering sharp, continuous turns on all high-traction surfaces. Now depress the brake pedal and place the transmission range selector in the D position for normal driving conditions. Release the parking brake in the brake pedal and depress the accelerator pedal. Accelerate at a safe, steady speed to get the vehicle moving and to maintain a desired speed as required by changing road or traffic conditions. When driving this vehicle on the road, there are a few tips that must be passed on. First, because of the Humvee's unique shape and low profile, the driver gets the perception that this vehicle is wider than most light trucks. This causes new drivers to run off the right edge of the road. To compensate for this, drive closer to the center line of the roadway. This will prevent you from running off the edge of the road. This vehicle is equipped with four-wheel hydraulic disc brakes, which means it stops much quicker than other light trucks. The automatic transmission on the Humvee has 3 forward driving positions. The D position has already been discussed. The 2 position is for hill climbing and engine braking to assist in slowing the vehicle when descending steep hills. The 1 position is used for maximum engine braking when descending very steep hills, climbing steep hills, or driving through deep snow. While driving this vehicle, there are several during operation checks that must be made. Observe the instrument panel and watch for any unusual readings. The transmission and transfer case must be observed for any strange noises, vibration, or unusual operation of the shift levers. Be alert for any wandering, unusual vibration, pulling, or binding in the steering mechanism. Be especially alert for any brake fading or pulling of the service brakes and sticking or binding of the brake pedal. Pay attention to any unusual noises, smells, or vibrations in the driveline components. Look at the air restriction gauge. If the gauge turns red after being reset, the filter must be cleaned. Lastly, remember the vehicle's speed must be reduced consistent with weather and road conditions. Now on to driving the Humvee off-road. Driving off-road or over rough terrain requires good driving sense. Experience is the best teacher, but there are a few good rules you can keep in mind that will help you when driving under these conditions. To shift the transfer lever, this vehicle must be stopped and the transmission placed in the N position. Do not shift into any lower gear than is necessary to maintain headway. First, select the proper transmission and transfer case gear ranges. D position and H range are used for most situations. Use HL or L ranges only when absolutely required by terrain or weather conditions. On steep grades, before you start up the hill, shift the transfer case to L and the transmission to 2 or 1, depending on how steep the grade is. Next, keep your engine operating at a constant moderate speed. Your engine works at its best in the mid-RPM range. Maximum torque is attained at 2,000 RPM. If you get in a tight spot, you can slow down or speed up quickly without changing gears. Use the transmission and transfer case to help control the engine speed. One of the unique features of the Humvee is that it is equipped with torque biasing differentials. You may be familiar with the limited slip or posit traction differentials that are so highly regarded in commercial vehicles. The torque biasing differential is designed along these lines, but does more to supply power to the wheel that needs it most, the one that has traction. For example, when one or more wheels lose traction and begin to spin freely, the differential has applied its torque to the area losing traction, or the one creating the least resistance. We need to redirect this torque to the wheels that have traction so they can help move the vehicle. This is where brake modulation comes into play. By applying light pressure on the brake pedal while at the same time pressing on the accelerator, we stop the free spinning wheel. This causes the torque biasing differential to send power to the other side of the vehicle, and the wheels that have traction will move the vehicle. Remember, slight pressure on the brake pedal and steady acceleration will move the vehicle through most places that you desire to go with the Humvee. With this in mind, let's do some off-road driving. First, a steep hill. Begin by selecting the proper transmission and transfer case ranges depending on the steepness of the hill. Then start up the hill at a slow, steady speed and use brake modulation to keep the vehicle moving if you lose traction on one or more wheels. This procedure would also be used if you were operating over obstacles such as gullies or ravines, or negotiating logs or walls. You can safely descend any hill that you climb by shifting the transfer case into L and the transmission into 2 or 1, depending on the steepness of the grade. Remember that this vehicle is in constant four-wheel drive, and when the transfer case and transmission are placed in the lower gears, all four wheels are working against compression to create a braking effect. Do not use the brakes. Let the engine's torque do the work. Do not travel diagonally across the slope unless it is absolutely necessary. If you must move across the slope, choose the smallest angle possible, keep the vehicle moving, and avoid turning the vehicle quickly. While operating in the mud, swamps, or marshy areas, do not repeatedly shift the transmission or overspeed the engine. You might damage the drivetrain. If you get stuck, do not attempt to rock the vehicle out of the mud with quick transmission shift changes. Damage to the transmission could result. If additional power is needed to get the vehicle out of the mud, place the transfer case in L and the transmission in 1. Then try moving the steering wheel to the left and right to give your front tires a different surface to bite for traction. At the same time, use brake modulation. After you get the vehicle out, place the transfer case in the HL position. If you are unsuccessful in freeing your stuck vehicle, use a wrecker or a second vehicle equipped with a winch, or if your vehicle has a self-recovery winch, use it. In this case, we will use the vehicle's winch. Your vehicle's electrical system is used to power the winch. It's recommended that the engine be left running while you operate the winch so that the alternator keeps the batteries charged. To begin the operation, place the transmission shift lever in the N position. Look for a suitable tree, a heavy vehicle, or another large object to connect the winch cable. You're now ready to unwind the winch cable. Turn the clutch lever counterclockwise to free spool. Make sure to wear leather gloves when handling the winch cable. Do not handle the cable with bare hands. Pull out the cable by hand to the desired length and connect the cable to the large tree, leaving 1 foot of slack in the cable. This allows time for the winch motor to start, which will give you maximum pulling power. Now check that at least 4 wraps of cable remain on the drum. Remove the remote control switch from the stowage box and turn the clutch lever clockwise to engaged. Now pull out the hand throttle until the engine speed reaches approximately 1500 RPM. A few precautions about the winch. The winch is equipped with an electronic current limiter switch to prevent winch overloads. If the winch stops repeatedly during operation and restarts in approximately 5 seconds, the electronic current limiter is being activated, indicating an overload condition. If this happens, stop winching and notify organizational maintenance. The winch is also equipped with a thermal cutoff switch to prevent the winch from overheating. If the winch stops during operation, wait approximately 2 minutes to let it cool off and allow the thermal switch to reset. If after 5 minutes the winch is still inoperative, notify organizational maintenance. Operate the remote control switch to in until the vehicle can move under its own power. Once the winch operation is complete, set the parking brake, disconnect the winch cable from the large tree, and wind the winch cable in until the hook is approximately 4 feet from the cable guide. Turn the clutch lever counterclockwise to free spool and rotate the drum by hand to retrieve the remaining cable. Turn the clutch lever clockwise to engaged. Place the remote control switch in the stowage box and release the hand throttle. Release the parking brake and continue with your mission. While operating the Humvee cross-country, you may have a need to ford a stream. This vehicle has a 30-inch shallow water fording capability without the use of a deep water fording kit. Prior to entering the water, check that the water depth does not exceed 30 inches and the bottom is hard. Then make sure the oil dipstick, transmission dipstick, oil filler cap, and fuel tank are all secure. Check your batteries and see that all battery caps are present and tight. Make sure you secure all loose objects on the vehicle. Finally, place the transfer case shift lever in the H range and the transmission lever in the D position. When entering the water, don't enter too fast. Enter the water slowly. If you enter the water too fast, the water will splash up over the hood and into the air intake, causing the engine to stop abruptly. Do not try to restart your engine. This will cause serious damage. Maintain an even vehicle speed of 5 miles per hour or less while in the water. When exiting the water, try to do so at a gentle sloping area. Once your fording operation is complete, keep applying the brakes until uneven braking ceases. Do not rely on your service brakes until they have dried out. After you finish operating your vehicle, wash it with low-pressure water. This is especially critical if water fording was through salt water. Do not allow water to enter the air intake cap or air cleaner assembly. Damage to the engine will occur. Wash all deposits from the radiator and oil cooler, driveline components, service and parking brakes, all control linkages, and vehicle exterior to include the lights. Lastly, remove any mud from the air cleaner dump valve. The last phase of our daily PMCS is the after-operation PMCS. This is performed after you have completed your mission and parked the vehicle. Visually check the vehicle exterior for any damage. Then check the tires, wheels, and lug nuts. Look at the vehicle undercarriage for any leaks. Check the transmission and engine oil levels. To drain the fuel filter, start the engine and open the fuel filter petcock. Drain approximately 1 pint of fuel into a suitable container and check for contamination. Now shut off the engine and complete the remaining checks. Check the brake fluid reservoir for leaks. Look at the radiator grill for obstructions, leaks, or damage. And lastly, check the drive belts for frays, cracks, and dry rot. If your vehicle participated in a water fording operation, have organizational maintenance service and lubricate it as soon as possible. That concludes the orientation operations of the Humvee. You have been shown the driving conditions under which this vehicle will operate, the operation of the winch, and the before, during, and after preventive maintenance checks and services to be performed on this vehicle. For any additional information about the Humvee, refer to the Operator's Manual, TM 9-2320-280-10.